I was there
Okay.
last week. At any rate, now I've lost my train of thought. Okay, in his circumstance, he died. Goodness, I can't even think in terms of dates because I know he dressed funny, so it'd have to be like 1830. Don't quote me on that, but in other words, as opposed to in the 1900s. Okay, so no, it's back that long ago, and then no, he died certainly way before 1950.
Uh-huh.
All right, in 1950, close enough for the example. There were documented as scientifically as possible over 300 cures of disablements, blindness. There were at least 7. I'm guessing at the numbers, but as opposed to hundreds, 7 blindnesses that were instantly cured by the person finding their way to this shrine of Saint Charbel in the middle of Lebanon, actually more toward the what would that be, easterly side. At any rate, you can look it up on the map. And this all did take place, and this was all very bona fide, extremely bona fide. It was also a part of the canonization process of the Catholic Church to verify and therefore allow him. And I've got to defend the Catholic Church. They spend a lot of money and a lot of time, and they do a good job disqualifying certain individuals from claims of spiritual healing, the miracles they call them. I have a problem with that word, but spiritual healings and so on, especially after they passed on. One of their prerequisites is that it's 3. I think that it's 2 or 3 bona fide healings that have to take place after the passing of the saintly person. In other words, if Mother Teresa is ever to be made a saint, there will have to be a spontaneous spiritual healing of a major disorder, like from blindness to sudden sight, by just calling out to Mother Teresa even though she's dead. They'll have to, you ought to read into that. I mean, it's interesting what is prerequisite.
You missed it. I want healing, right?
Yeah. Too bad. You're no saint. You're lazy. You'd be a lazy.
So are you saying that Saint
Charbel
is now?
Wait, I gotta interrupt you because another little tidbit is one of my favorites, which I was attracted to and even manipulated to come and find out something about. Ann Sherman shanghaied me in her little Volkswagen minibus and took me to a little place called Fonda, New York, where I found some artifacts that were missing for a very long time, as luck would have it. And that is in reference to Saint Kateri or Kateri, and if it's pronounced Cathatwika, right, an American Mohawk Indian who is going to be canonized in the Catholic tradition, canonized as saint very shortly. I'm not talking years, talking like watch the news tonight, very shortly. And of course, I knew this. Again, I think it would be 1983 because it would be just prior to the first year I gave an official lecture at Monroe Community College. And during the lecture, I mentioned something of that nature. We have that on tape, audio tape. In the lecture, I mentioned that she would be. And of course, the few people who even knew anything of her were, oh, wow. So I guess right now she has a status of beatification. And then the last stage is sainthood. In the Catholic tradition is canonization. So
was she the Mohawk Indian who became Catholic?
Yeah, oh yes. Yeah.
Became a nun?
Well, I don't know. No, she didn't have the status of being a nun. Let me just put it this way: she was a saint. She did some cool stuff, and I mean, she prayed every day at the church. And one of the things that the Mohawk Indians, wanted to find was where's the church. So everybody's running around looking for this structure and this foundation, and we know where it is now. Some of us know where it is now, and I don't know how important any of this is, but she'll be canonized very shortly, and that's good. I think that's justified by my measurements too. Back to
now, just to go back to what you said before, St. Scoville is perfectly identical to every other.
Their soul, yes, But
But
that
not
which
their
the soul has opportunities
And they took their
on their
full
level.
of opportunity.
on their level. In other words, in their realms. I'm not saying that, well, yeah, they can actually choose, make decisions and choose that to stay here. It's not guaranteed that they can decide because, I mean, come on, the Godhead, God can reabsorb instantly everything or anything. But where God is allowing the full evolutionary, I'm talking now souls, I'm not talking about plant and animal life, the evolutionary process to go free will, total free will, these saints that I'm referring to, the two examples that I've given, and that there is a process, whereas by their very nature as to who they were, it was their personality and that which they evolved to be in that incarnation, that and I guess there's a pattern of sorts, because by their very nature, part of their servitude, part of their volunteerism
To return.
is not to return, but to stay. In fact, it's just the opposite of what you would wish for everybody to anticipate and expect or to strive for. In other words, you want to get out of here. This is called physical stuff. This is the illusion. I mean, this is reality, but it's only a portion of reality.
So you're saying Charbel's soul personality has stayed, but his body.
Right. His body is depleted. He no longer is embodiment. And his soul is still very much here connected to the earth plane. By the earth plane, I mean the realm of the big blue marble. I mean, it can, in dimensions, see right away when I start, where is it? The middle of the earth? No. Is it on the surface of the earth? No. Impermeable. In other words, it's coexisting. The massless body doesn't require a house, doesn't require, the nearest thing to a house would be the entire earth. All right? And one of the inadequacies of a vast majority of these saints that I'm referring to, I'm not blaming them for making a mistake or having a mistaken thing, but they, by my very high judgmental standards, they incorrectly associate themselves with only a particular place or two on the earth, meaning a spiritual healing center. Well, that could be manipulative in a way, but I don't see that as a very virtuous thing. I mean,
Be everywhere or anywhere.
Right. And I would have a tendency to prefer to just be not identified with a particular location, what I call loci, because there is an exact pinpoint where the spirituality of Saint Charbel is the greatest right this minute in Lebanon. And we better thank God for that, because we need all the help we can get in that area. And even though things since 1950 has gone worse and worse and worse by our judgmental standards, the spirituality is the same. And the spirituality is available to not just the Christians, but in other words, in that the Christian phrase, the Christianity. In other words, you can be a very Christian Jew, for that matter, the way I use the term. And to have that love of Christ and do a ritual of Buddhism, I don't have a problem with that. I'm sure that the churches do, because again, there we go with power, man-made power, as opposed to actual the Christ loved. Christ didn't love a certain color; he loved all colors. Yeah. What else? What else? I'm still stuck on Saint Charbel. But I mean, do you see that?
So I'm trying to see what the difference between the saintly spirits that are helpful, or the saintly soul personalities that are helpful, and the souls that just aren't getting on with their work and that are.
Oh yeah, good point. Good comparison.
Right.
Here we go with the lack of scientific measurement. How do you know?
Yeah.
And the only way you can know is either through experimentation or just intuitive realization. How do you measure intuitive realization? Well, because a person smiles or cries? You can't go by that. And yet we do. I mean, we're guilty of that. You see a tearjerker movie, and at the end you say it was a really good movie. And of course, it brought on the emotions. But does that mean I can't watch a scientific documentary like The Powers of 10 and cry for a half hour? I can't sell that as a tearjerker movie. Everybody else laughs at it, and half the people, it was only 15 minutes long, half the people walked out on it. They didn't even like it at all. So we have to be careful of our measurements. Yeah, the disenfranchised or disembodied souls that have not been able to promulgate and go on or progress are earthbound. Simultaneously, there are very saints and saintly souls. As a matter of fact, I could even do a dialogue on Albert Einstein. I mean, I should be so judgmental because his immediate family is still alive. And I've been very protective about wishing to say a lot of things about that which culminated a few years ago. I don't recall the year, but let's just say I was intuitively aware of his fulfillment of his uncontrollable desires to be earthbound and stay for the purpose of, well, I'll just say it very ambiguously. I'm saying that Albert Einstein had two needs. He needed to assist in whatever way he could, spiritually speaking, as a disembodied soul, and also facilitate some form of an apology to mankind for that which he took on as his responsibility of bringing into the technological knowledge of mankind, meaning the nuclear stuff, and that seeing it be misused, and he took on the responsibility, incorrectly so. I mean, it wasn't his fault, and he didn't do that. It was a collective effort. But the personality, Albert Einstein, took it on himself as the responsibility, and he wished to apologize and fervently serve from a spiritual point of view. And he demanded of himself, just with the words that he used, demanded of himself to be earthbound and did facilitate that. And it was since, I'm trying to think of what year, because that was a major event for me. Oh, in the early 80s. Oh, somewhere like 1984. Might have been a little bit later. See, 85 was a plane crash, right? So it was before that well-known plane crash in my life. So, all right, let's say about 1984 to give you a reference point. In fact, I tried to remember by saying the exact number of years since his death. I believe it was 1955 or 56. All right, so I don't know. It could have even been 1985. But anyway, in the early 80s, from around 1980 to the 1985, somewhere in that zone, I'm claiming that I've been spiritually aware of his passing. Because, I mean, he's really been dead since 1955, and release and recognition of his karmic fulfillment as well as his personality fulfillment. And those demand that affected his karma, that he just piled on a certain type of, and I won't say what type, certain type of karma that therefore became a demand, so to speak, that he be earthbound for that period of time. And that now that's okay. And that the saints that are here for hundreds and hundreds of years and doing spiritual healings and works, you have to be careful about thinking of manipulation, because is that not manipulation? To spiritually enhance somebody sounds all lovey-dovey, but what are you doing? Could you conceivably be denying that individual their karmic fulfillment? If they need to be in a state of dis-ease with a broken back for a year and sit around and get fat, wear a blue sweater, to have somebody come up and wave a magic wand and say, there you go, you can go back to your employment. Well, wait a minute, what have you done? You know, it sounds good.
The lesson may not have been learned.
Right.
Okay, I think we're running out of time, but maybe if there's anything that anyone viewing here as far as reincarnation, maybe it's not to worry about it. You just live in the moment.
Well, yeah, also, I'll tell you what, right now, be judgmental and say, I've read parts of many, many books with part of the title saying reincarnation this, the Tao of reincarnation. I mean, you mix it up. There's many, many books on the subject. I've been told about, people have read books and told me, well, this book says this, and that, and that, and that. I have been totally dissatisfied with 98% of everything I've read on the subject. It's just a complete lie. It's a fabrication. Blavatsky's work was then dealt with by Omschlein, and he wrote a pamphlet or a book on reincarnation, which he didn't write at all. He wrote it from what he read from Blavatsky. So we're getting interpretations of interpretations and so on. So judgmentally, I've been dissatisfied with anything I've read on reincarnation up until I read the book, The Seat of the Soul. And I just, we'll do one of these to sell the book. Can you see it there? Yeah, just a little book, Gary Zukov, The Seat of the Soul. And I haven't met the man. I'd like to, certainly. It's a good book. I might add that I read one chapter in that book, a later chapter when I first got it, just read a paragraph and didn't like it at all. And I was so disappointed because I thought, oh, Gary Zukov, what have you done? You've gone way off on a witch hunt or something like that. And then I did force myself to read the book cover to cover, one of the few that I have, and it's a great book. It's not a book for everybody. So if you read into it and are dissatisfied, don't force yourself unless you're that type of person. But it's a very good book. It is not a book on reincarnation. But trust me, if you can perceive accurately, starting with reverence, in the way Gary Zukov talks about reverence, and if you can perceive that which the book talks about external power, about personalities and characteristics, and this and that, and he does talk directly about aspects of reincarnation, but it is not a book on reincarnation per se, but it's the best book that I've read regarding the subject of reincarnation. I wish I'd done a little better. So we say goodbye and God bless you all.